I think of this as the Land Cruiser for those who cruise the land of country clubs. This is the Lexus LX 570. Big, luxurious, but don't let its gilded exterior and cabin fool you. It's a real body-on-frame off-roader. Let's drive it and check the tech. Now, in a sense, the LX is really the Lexus LS of SUVs. It's a full-size SUV. It's a body-on-frame construction, which makes it technically a truck. That also means the thing can pull 7,000 pounds on a trailering load. You've got all-wheel drive as your only configuration, and as we're going to find out, it's a fairly complex system. 3 rows of seating inside are standard. Lexus says it'll hold 8 people, although I'd hate to be numbers 6, 7, or 8. Now inside this big boy, you've got a lot of traditional Lexus cues. One thing I noticed right away is a lot of traditional gauges here. Again, kind of in truck style. You've got things like oil pressure and temperature gauges, an ammeter, things that most of their cars have given up years ago. But it makes for a nice substantial feel. Now let's get to the head unit where most of the tech is going to play out. We've seen this navigation system before and the media choices and of course the optional Mark Levinson upgraded 19-speaker surround sound. So all of this is quite familiar still. What I want to take you to is going to this area called Apps in the upper left. This is what they call Lexus N-Form. It's the cousin of Toyota N-Tune. In fact, they're kissing cousins. Very similar, and you've seen this before as well. The nice thing about this system is you install the N-Form app on your phone, and it cloud loads all these apps one time. Under the Bing app, again, no Google search here, you do have the ability to kind of do a free-form search for just about anything. And you can use voice. If you use this voice icon, the voice button on the wheel does not tie into this system, which is a little inelegant. San Francisco Giants. And there you go. Hit that. It's going to take you information about the Giants, and I bet it's going to show me how to get to the ballpark. Yep, there it is. So it's very sort of tuned toward automotive. It didn't bring me up, box scores or the history of the Giants or who's on the mound today. It just went to what I need to know for a vehicle application. Very smart. iHeartRadio, which I've always had contempt for, because why would you have an app that just brings you the stations of one ownership group? I won't even use it. Movietickets.com, I'd prefer Fandango myself. Here's Open Table. Again, you can use voice search, which is the key way to operate this. Find a table at 7 for a party of 4 at Trattoria Fresco. Not bad. That's pretty good for a relatively unstructured search. Finally, you've got Pandora, which again uses the app on your phone, then puts it into car mode and brings all the control up here. And finally, your Facebook implementation here is strictly Facebook Places, basically checking in as you drive around. Nothing more than that. You can't look at your wall and make long posts or anything like that, fortunately. Now the downsides of this system. First of all, as you may have noticed, it's kind of dog slow. And I don't attribute that all to the fact that it's using my phone's 3/4G connection. I think there's some processing delay going on here that needs to be sped up. Secondly, if you're out on the road with this, a whole slew of these functions get locked out, but not all of them. It's a weird hodgepodge, which doesn't let you operate with a single clear set of behaviors. It drives me nuts. And finally, under Yelp, notice there isn't a voice search button here, as there is for almost every other app in this application suite. Now, of course, this cabin abounds in creature comforts. You've got heated and cooled seats. You've got 4-zone climate control. And right here in the console, under the armrest, we've got the optional cool box, which looks like it's set up for about 2 bottles, which is a controversial space allocation in and of itself. Uses the air conditioning to pump in the coldest air it can wing and does a pretty good job in there. Plenty of camera tech on this big boy, luckily. Go into reverse and you've got a couple of options here. First of all, you can change up what they call your park assist. This gives you a variety of indications of where you should go to park, but it's not a self-parking vehicle. That technology is not available on this LX, and I think that might be useful. But it does give you a zone to aim for. I'm not sure it's going to help a lot of folks who can't park. It'll just be difficult in a different way, but that's my opinion. And then when you're creeping forward, like a mile or 2 per hour, you get this front camera. But the other one that's really valuable is one that looks over on the right side, because in a vehicle this big and this tall, you have no idea what's down over there. And this lets you keep a peek on it. That's quite useful. Now, as so often is the case in life, what's going on in your hindquarters is important to pay attention to. Split tailgate, the upper part going that way, the lower third, of course, comes down to make a nice little bench and also give you a lower lift over. Now, these seats here in the 3rd row are fairly substantial. The room isn't bad. I mean, it's basically for kids or adults you hate. But here's how you clear the area, although it's only sort of clear. Drop the headrest first, and then you've got these buttons here that will lower each of the seat backs. Now, to get the remaining seat assembly out of the way, you go to these buttons over here that lift, by power, each of those seat clusters up to the sides of the vehicle. Now, you may think it's a huge waste of space to have these sort of sitting like that, except notice that Lexus has them flush with where the wheel wells are anyway, so you don't lose a lot of actual floor width. Now, under the hood of this big boy is a big motor, 5.7-liter V8, but nothing tricky about it, not even direct injection. 383 horsepower, 403 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive only, 6-speed automatic, through a standard Torsen center limited slip differential. Pretty serious gear. 0 to 60 is 7.5 seconds, which may sound unremarkable until you realize this vehicle weighs 6,000 pounds. Its MPG rating is commensurate at 1217. Now, things get really interesting when you get down to all these buttons around the shifter. Then over here, you've got your high and low four-wheel drive controller. Next to that, you've got your crawl button. This will take you crawling up or down at super careful modulated speeds. There's also a turn assist technology button next to that. And then here are some degrees of crawl on a rocker switch. And next to that, you've got a height adjustment rocker. This lets you go anywhere from 3 inches up from normal all the way to 2 inches below normal. A 5-inch range of taking this guy up and down thanks to its air suspension. Finally, your suspension controls: sport, normal, and comfort. And as you can see, we've got a lot of ways to fiddle with this vehicle. I hope you're into off-roading. Okay, driving the LX 570 is, as I mentioned, it's got a lot of LS DNA in it. It's smooth. All the responses you get back from the road are refined and almost muted depending on your position here on the suspension in particular. This is a very responsive engine and obviously a big and powerful one. When you tip into the throttle, you get commensurate amounts of power right now. Because we're not dealing with turbos and because they've got the computers and such programmed to stay alert, it's a very responsive drive, and that makes it actually enjoyable to drive around, and even though it's huge. I like the normal setting on the suspension. I've gone to sport, and it just seems to get a little juddery and a little nervous. Coax the gear shift over here into the sport side of the gate, even if you don't shift, and now you're in a sport mode that just revs a little higher, hangs onto those gears in a little gutsier way. All in all, I think you'd be surprised how much this does not feel like you're piloting a ship. By the way, if you need help driving something this big, you should shop elsewhere. The LX 570 is mostly lacking in driver assist technology. It does offer adaptive cruise control, but no lane departure tech, no blind spot tech, and no automatic full braking to prevent a collision. Okay, let's price our big crimson friend. These don't come cheap. They're high-end vehicles, and they're big, capable vehicles. So $83,500 base, nicely equipped, but to get it fully CNET style, you've got to add about $8,400 for the package. That gets you Levinson sound, fully cooled and heated seats, that cool box in the console, a card key instead of a wireless fob, adaptive cruise control, the DVD rear seat entertainment rig I could easily live without, and the parking assist visualizations on the main screen. So all in about $92,000. If you're looking for that cosseting kind of luxury you find in a Lexus LS, but you also want serious off-roading and towing ability, this might be your guy.